Welcome back once again, all of my low carb friends, and for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. Today I have another very simple, quick, delicious keto bread recipe for you. Today I'm going to show you how to make keto Italian herb and cheese sandwich bread. Now I'm making these in sub bread molds, but you can just as easily put it in an 8x4-inch loaf pan and bake it to make an entire bread loaf. You just, of course, will have to cook it longer, but still it will turn out absolutely delicious for you. And if you want a printable version of this recipe, you can check out my website at janet'sdeliciouslowcarbkitchen.com. You can find a printable version of this recipe and other goodies there for you. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see lots of easy, delicious keto recipes, make sure you click that subscribe button and click the notification bell that's right next to the subscribe button. That way you can be notified every time I put out videos every Wednesday and Saturday. And if you'd like to help support the channel, make sure you scroll down in the description of the video. You'll see some affiliate links. Anytime you purchase anything using those affiliate links, a small portion of your purchase will go to me and help support the channel. So while we do all that, let's get cooking. Preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Lightly spray 4 6-inch sub molds, or if you don't have sub molds, I'll put a link in the description to my article on how to make sub molds out of foil. Or you can also just put this in an 8x4-inch loaf pan. Just make sure you line the loaf pan. If you are going to use the loaf pan, then you'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, not 400 degrees. In a small bowl, combine 21 grams or around a 1/4 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese and 5 grams or around 1 tablespoon of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Then set that aside for just a minute. In a large mixing bowl, combine 123 grams or around 1 cup of coconut flour, 15 grams or around 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 4 grams or around 1 teaspoon of xanthan gum, 1½ teaspoons of instant dry yeast, make sure it is instant yeast, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Sift or whisk these all together until they're fully combined and there are no lumps in the dry ingredients. Now the yeast that we're adding here, it is optional. We're not putting it in for the purpose of making your bread rise. We're using baking powder for the leavening agent. As I've told you guys many times before, coconut flour breads do not rise very much at all. Not even with yeast, they don't. The reason why we're adding the yeast is just for a little bit of flavor. When you add a little bit of yeast to your coconut flour breads, it helps tone down the coconut flour and give it a little bit more of a traditional type taste. Add around 6 grams or about 1½ tablespoons of dry Italian seasonings. You can use a little bit more or less depending on how much of a dominant Italian taste you want in your bread. I make my own Italian seasonings. I just use a combination of garlic powder, onion powder, dry oregano, dry basil, dry thyme, dry parsley, and I just kind of mix them all together and keep them in a seasoning jar. Add 4 large room temperature eggs. Make sure they are room temperature so they mix into your ingredients more smooth. Stir the eggs into the dry ingredients until everything is fully combined and all the dry ingredients have been moistened by the eggs. Add 146 milliliters or around 1/4 cup of the oil of your choice. I'm using olive oil. You can use whatever oil you want. Stir the oil in until everything is fully combined and smooth. Add 2 ounces or around a 1/4 cup of warm water. Make sure it is warm water. That heat is going to help your dough to stay soft and moist so you have a softer bread. Stir the water in until everything is fully combined and you have a soft, smooth dough. Use a wooden spoon and scrape down the sides of your bowl and push the dough to the center of the bowl. Then form the dough into a smooth ball. Massage the dough ball for about 2 minutes. This will just help absorb any extra moisture and to make sure that all of your ingredients are sticking together really well. Divide the dough into 4 equal portions. Take each portion and roll the portion into an oval shape. Then press it evenly throughout your prepared sub molds. Now, if you're just using a loaf pan and making this into a loaf, And obviously you don't need to divide your dough. Just roll it into a big oval shape and press it evenly in your 8x4-inch lined loaf pan. Then set your bread aside for just a second. Melt 1 tablespoon of butter and allow it to cool for a minute or two so it's mostly room temperature. Lightly brush the top of the bread with the melted butter. This is going to give you a nice toasty top to your bread. If you don't want that toasted top, you can always leave the melted butter off. Then take your bowl with your cheese mixture in it and lightly sprinkle the cheese mixture over the top of your bread. You just want a little scatter on top of your bread, not a whole lot. Then place the bread in your preheated oven. If you're doing the sub molds, you're going to bake at 400 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes or until the bread is golden and a tester comes out clean. If you're using the 8x4-inch loaf pan, you're going to bake at 350 degrees for 45 to 50 minutes or until golden around the edges and a tester comes out clean. Once it's done baking, remove it from the oven. Allow the bread to cool in the molds for at least 15 minutes so the bread can firm up. If you've baked the bread into a loaf, then you'll need to let it cool in the loaf pan for at least 30 minutes so that all the ingredients can settle well together and your bread doesn't fall apart. Once the bread has firmed up, remove the bread from the molds and place the bread on a wire rack and allow it to cool completely before slicing it. Do not slice it if there is any warmth in it. Gluten-free bread is very fragile when it is warm. So if you try to slice it when it is warm, you run the risk of your bread falling apart. So allow it to cool completely. Once the bread is cooled completely, if you've baked it into a loaf, just slice your desired piece when you're ready to eat it. If you're like me and have done the sub molds, then once they're cooled completely, use a very sharp bread knife and slice each sub bread in half, creating a top and a bottom bun. You can use these immediately. If you do have leftovers, store them in an airtight container at room temperature for up to 4 days, or you can place these in a freezer-safe container and freeze them for up to 2 months. Now, if you do choose to freeze them, make sure you slice your bread before you freeze it. Especially if you've baked it in a loaf and you're cutting actual slices, you definitely want to slice it before you freeze it. That way you don't have to take out the whole loaf when you're just wanting a couple pieces of bread to make a sandwich with. Eat and enjoy. And that's the recipe of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want to see more videos like this, make sure you click that thumbs up like button, click that subscribe button, leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.